Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Dinda Ayu Damara, English Education Student 2016 in English Department, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Universitas Negeri Jambi. This video is made for the requirements of my final project for my degree of Sarjana Pendidikan in English Education. So, as you can see in the first slide, my thesis title is Learning Strategies Used by First-Year Student of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi. And in this slide, I have a content outline that I have 5 content here. The first one in introduction, that is discussing about background of the study, research question, purpose, limitation, and significant. And the second one is review of related literature. And the third one is research methodology. And the fourth one is finding and discussion. And the last one is conclusion and suggestion. In this slide, I have chapter 1, that is introduction. The first one, I would like to explain about background of the study, then follow research question, purpose, limitation, and significant. In Indonesia, English is taught formally from junior high school to university. This is aimed to bring good communications, send message to others, express meaning, and others. But each student has different level of proficiency in learning English. There are who have good ability to master the lessons, and there are who have low proficiency. Even though they have studied English for several years, learning English is not always easy. They learn about grammatical competence, linguistic features, and also the cultures. Not only study about memorizing vocabulary and reading. So that students need their own strategy during the learning process. And to improve English skills, strategies are very important. Oxford 1990 states that strategies are important for language learners because they are tools to develop their communicative ability. And learning strategies themselves are the best way used by students in learning activities to get the best result in learning process. Each student uses a different learning strategy to learn English. It depends on their characteristic, and they can choose the appropriate learning strategies to help them understand what they have learned. And for new students of English education study program in the first years or semester, of course, this is something new for them in a classroom setting that requires communication and learning in English. Not all of them understand what the lecturers explain. And the students who learn English have different ability because different background, education, environment, and so on. It makes the student in the same class have different various level of English and also the learning strategies. And the result from short interview in January 2020 in UPT Bahasa Jambi University with several English students in the first years, they said they were surprised, confused, relaxed in the beginning of lectures because in the senior high school they didn't use English language to do learning process. And also the teacher who explained in the classroom not use English language in every meeting. And other students said they understand what lectures mean, but there are so many new vocabulary that they don't know what it means. And based on the researcher's personal experience, when she was in the early semester, it was very difficult for her to understand and take the lesson at that time. There are many factors that cause this happen. One of them, many new vocabularies are unknown by the author, and some of the lecturers used English language without translating into Bahasa Indonesia, and she is not confident to ask the meaning with the lectures, and also she didn't know there were any kinds of learning strategies. With the previous explanation about the background of the study, the researchers formulate the research question, that is, what language learning strategies are used by first-year students of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi. And based on the formulation of research question, the main purpose of this research is to know and describe Language learning strategy preference used by first-year student of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi. And the limitation of this research focus on the student language learning strategies in learning English. This is applied by first-year student of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi in academic year 2019 and 2020. And the last one is significant. The result of this research is expected to give some contribution. Firstly, for students, it will help them to understand the kind of learning strategies in learning English and in order to accelerate and enhance their comprehensions. And secondly, for researchers, this study can be enrich her knowledge after doing this research. And also, the last one is for the readers. The writer hopes this study will be useful for many people who need this research. And now we are in the second chapter of this final projects, that is review of related literature. This chapter presents about some information and relevant research. And in the second chapter, I have 5 subheadings. The first one is learning process, the second one is learning strategies, the third one is the type of language learning strategies, the fourth one is the features of language learning strategies, and the last one is previous study. And for the theory I use to analyze my study, that is from Oxford, that is SEAL, Strategy Inventory for Language Learning. And for previous study, I take 4 previous study here. It from Astrid, Krita, Firma, and Rena that related with learning strategies. And we're going to the next slide. In this slide, it presents about research methodology. And the researcher use mixed method. It combines quantitative and qualitative research to get maximum data. And also, the researcher use descriptive method. It is to describe the learning strategies used by first-year English learners. According to Segiono 2014 in page 14, descriptive research is a research that describes a phenomenon either using qualitative and quantitative data. And for the subject of this research are first-year student of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi in academic year 2019 and 2020. And also, the researcher applying SEAL questionnaire and interview section as an instrument of gathering the data. In this slide, it presents about SEAL questionnaire. SEAL questionnaire itself is specifically for foreign language learners to examine the language learning strategies used. So, in this study, the researcher adopted SEAL questionnaire version 7 by Oxford, and it consists of 50 questions. And as you can see in the table 3.1 in the slide, there have classification of language learning strategies based on Oxford. There are low, medium, and high. And in the below of table 3.1, there is the table of the sketch of questionnaire. There are the number of items in each strategy. And the researcher did validity and reliability tests first to make sure this questionnaire is correct. According to Ghazali 2005, validity test is carried out to measure whether a questionnaire is valid or not. A questionnaire is said to be valid with criteria. If R count greater than R table, it can be stated that the statement is valid. And if R count less than R table, it can be stated that the statement is invalid. And also for reliability, this is to ensure that questionnaire that used to collect the data is reliable or not. This is to assess the consistency of object and the data. And the criteria of reliability, if Cronbach alpha value greater than 0.6, it is reliable. And if the Cronbach alpha value is less than 0.6, it is not reliable. The researcher applying questionnaire and interview to collecting the data. First step, get the data through questionnaire. And first of all, the researcher designed the questionnaire using Likert scale to measurement the questionnaire. And after that, the researcher shared the questionnaire via mail to the student. And in the next step is interview. In the interview, the researcher conducted via telephone, and the researcher prepared 7 questions based on theoretical from Oxford. And then the researcher asking a profile from the leader of class in each class and ask some his friend to be interviewed. And then the participant who want to be participate in schedule. And it It takes 5 until 10 minutes for each participant. This slide is present about the procedure of technique analysis. First, analyze the data questionnaire used Excel, and then validity test and reliability test. And after that, analysis the data questionnaire use cell profile of result. And then recapitulate the percentage, the average mean score rank of student, and the average score of student. And after that, transcript data from WhatsApp, and then identify and focus in the research problem. And then analyze questionnaire and interview finding, and then the last, drawing the conclusions. And in this slide, I have chapter 4 that is present about research finding based on the data obtained during the study. And the researcher present the finding of the study that are divided into 3 findings based on the cell questionnaire and interview. First, the finding of validity and reliability of cell questionnaire. The researcher did validity and reliability tests first before analyzing and processing the further data, and it is to find out that cell questionnaire which has 15 questions are valid and reliable. After researcher get the data questionnaire from students, the data was analyzed by using SPSS version 19 to check that each item in the cell questionnaire is valid and check that each student answer was consistent, which means it is reliable. And the finding of validity of cell questionnaire show that cell questionnaire are valid. It shown in the table validity in the slide. R item, which means R count, is greater than R table, where use level significant 5% and N 15. If N is 15, the value of R table is 0.279, and it means the value of R table is 0.279. And for reliability, it shows the data is reliable. In the table of reliability, the value of Cronbach alpha is 0.955, where if the Cronbach alpha greater than 0.6, the data is reliable. After researcher do validity and reliability tests and the findings are valid and reliable, the next step, researcher analyze cell questionnaire. From cell questionnaire, the researcher analyze and classify the type of student language learning strategy in learning English. And the data is classified based on Oxford theory. For more detailed data in Appendix 3. Furthermore, the researcher reduced the table by entering the value of each student in each strategy in order to find the percentage of each strategy that student used. And the table 4.1 in the slide and the table 4.2 in my thesis showed the percentage that student used in each learning strategy, where memory strategy 16.35%, cognitive strategy 16.38%, compensation strategy 15.12%, metacognitive strategy 18.93%, affective strategy 15.90%, and social strategy 17.33%. It means that metacognitive strategy has the highest percent that used by first-year student of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi. And also it found that the student used all language learning strategies, which are memory, cognitive, compensation, metacognitive, affective, and social strategy. But most frequently used is metacognitive strategy. And to obtain an average mean score for each strategy and to find the first rank of strategy, the researcher conducted an analysis using the formula in the chapter 3. And it found that metacognitive strategy as the first rank that used by first-year student of English Education Study Program of Universitas Jambi, with mean score 3.96, and it classified in the higher level. It can be seen in the table in the slide. And the last, interview findings. In the table 1, it shows all students that research and interview used metacognitive strategy. They mentioned that they use this strategy in their learning process. And in the table 2, researchers ask questions that focus on the strategy they often used between question number 1 until question number 6. And it finds that 6 participants have the same way of using strategy in their learning. They answered strategy in the question number 4. As mentioned in the appendix 5, question number 4 is a question about metacognitive strategy. And in the table 3, it shows 2 from 8 participants prefer to use other strategy. So it can be stated that from interview findings, metacognitive strategy also as strategy frequently used by students. All students that researcher interview answered they used metacognitive strategy, and several of them often use metacognitive strategy in their learning process. And now we are in the last chapter of this final project, which is chapter 5, and it consists of conclusion and suggestion. Based on the research finding and the discussion that researcher mentioned before, the researcher conclude that students used language learning strategies, including memory, cognitive, compensation, metacognitive, affective, and social strategies. For memory, cognitive, compensation, affective, and social strategies are not strategies frequently used. The strategy that is frequently used is metacognitive strategy, in order by social, cognitive, memory, affective, and last compensation strategy. Metacognitive strategy become the highest percent with the percentage 18.93%, and the biggest total score with mean score 3.96. And all students that researcher interview used metacognitive strategy, and several of them often used metacognitive strategy. So, from the conclusion, the research finding, and the discussion before, the researchers suggest some suggestion, first for students, second for further researchers, and the last for the readers. And for students need to know the type and understanding of each language learning strategy. And the student can use that strategy which is appropriate to their needs. And students more creative to improve their English by using more language learning strategies in their learning. And for further researchers, the next researchers can make study further and more critically in order to reveal aspects in improving the quality of teaching and learning. And the last for the readers, the researchers hope all the findings, results, and the suggestion in this research will be valuable and contribution. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.